That's always fun. We find out that not all of these creatures live in the Pacific Northwest. But anyway, my name is Evans Bailey. I'm a volunteer field investigator with our group here, made up of Oklahomans. It's the North Canadian River Project. We basically focus our investigations on the North Canadian River or central Oklahoma, this area, say from about Yukon northwest or northwest Oklahoma City, Stinchcomb Refuge, where it comes in, where the river comes into the Overholser Lake, and go northwest from there out to Calumet and all up through there. Yeah, if you don't mind, if you we'll dim the lights, and that'll help us see the slides. All right, thank you. I'm going to introduce my partner back there, our team partner, in just a few moments, because he's going to speak for a little bit about another group that we are involved in. But we are just volunteers. We have day jobs and do that, but for fun and to get outdoors and enjoy the outdoors. We also are fascinated by these creatures and spend our free time out there kind of looking for them and looking for the evidence that they leave behind. Did you have a question, ma'am?
Have you ever found Bigfoot?
I have seen one. Yes, I have. And I think I've seen more than one. I'll tell you about that here in a little bit, but yes. Now, trying to get him on film or capture one or something like that, that's a whole different story. But, anyway, like I said, we're just volunteers doing this for fun. We're not experts. We're not expert trackers or anything like that. We're just out there looking for signs of these creatures, trying to figure out what these things are and how come they're so elusive, that sort of thing. So this is our group. We are on Facebook at North Canadian River Project, and we also go other places around the state, which I'll talk about in a minute. But our group, since we all live in this area, kind of focus on the North Canadian River, and we'd love to expand that on further east of the metro area too, along the North and South Canadian rivers, as we have folks that are interested and willing to help us out there that go out. And we're kind of loosely organized. It's not real official or anything like that, but we have about 40 members in our group right now, and about a dozen to 15 of those are very active and go out. Not only do we go out on group outings, but then also they go out on their own, and we can all share photos and things that we find. We can share it on the Facebook page there. Another group that we are involved in is affiliated with is the Native Oklahoma Bigfoot Research Organization, and this is a statewide organization, and it was begun by tribal members, Choctaw, Cherokee, and Creek members who had grown up with the stories of these creatures in their tribes. And what is fascinating, thank you very much, what's fascinating is that every tribe in North America has stories of these creatures and names, and particular names for these creatures. And they, many if not most of the tribes, if not all the tribes, believe that these creatures are actually a form of, they consider them another tribe, a form of people. And a lot of their names for them, like the Choctaw call them Oklachito, the tall people. Caddos call them the hairy people or the hairy man. So things like that. So the tribes consider them fellow tribes and that sort of thing. So it's just fascinating. But we've been affiliated with them, and they do investigations all over the state, take sighting reports, and myself and our other group leader, Kurt Stanley, who was ill today, couldn't make it, but we are investigators for NOBRO and cover the Southwest and Central districts. So I want to introduce Ryan White at this time, and Ryan is one of the organizers of Native Oklahoma Bigfoot Research Organization, and he has put together a really cool website for NOBRO, and it's a tremendous resource for finding out about stuff related to Bigfoot specific to central Oklahoma. You can enter a sighting report on there. You can see what other sighting reports have been made, things like that. So Ryan White, if you'll take it away, and let me bring it up here.
Sure. Okay. While he's getting us on our website, I want to do three things today. The first thing is I just want to tell you how to get to our website, the web address. The second thing is I want to show you, once you get to our website, how to find the Bigfoot sightings database that we've started. It's a small but growing database that we're working on about Bigfoot sightings around Oklahoma. And then the third thing, I was just going to show you kind of how to contact us if you happen to have a sighting or know someone who's had a sighting and they've never reported it. So I was just going to go over those three basic things. So the first thing is the web address. If you just go to Facebook and you look up Native Oklahoma Bigfoot Research Organization and you like that page, somewhere in that page is the link to our website, which this is the website that you're looking at right now. Okay, that's probably the easiest way. If you just want to type it in, here it is. It's sites.google.com/site/Native OK Bigfoot Research. And I have cards up here on the display table, so if you don't want to, I know you're not going to be able to remember that website. I don't even remember it. I have to look at the card. Anyway, we have cards up here. If you want to grab one as soon as the presentation's over with at the end of the day and chat or whatever, they're up here. And I know Evans has cards too, and it should have the website on his cards as well. So I have cards, he has cards. Come up and visit us afterwards. So once you get to the website, there's a few things. I'm going to go to Contact Us real quick. Right here, if you can see where the finger is. Okay, I'm going to go to that page. Okay, we've broken it up into 4 districts in Oklahoma. We have investigators spread out, like Evans was saying. We have the Southeast District, which you see right there on the top. And underneath there it says our field investigator is Troy Hudson. He's actually the leader of the NOBRO. And so you would contact him. If you are in the Northeast District in one of those counties, you could contact me or another investigator, Mordecai. The Southwest District, that's Evans and then Kurt. And then we also have another investigator named Michael Parton. And then also the Northwest District, I'm kind of covering it right now. It has the fewest sightings in the whole state. If you've driven through Northwest Oklahoma, you would see why. There are rare sightings, though, believe it or not, in Northwest Oklahoma. All right, so anyway, if you go down to the bottom, there's all of our email addresses, and you could contact the appropriate one that goes with that district if you happen to have a sighting in one of those 4 districts of the state. Okay, now I want to show you our sightings database. Okay, so if you just go to the home screen, you're just going to scroll down on the home screen. There'll be all these pictures. Okay, there's the North Canadian River Project. There's a past presentation they did. There's a video we just did last weekend. There's a link to our Facebook page. What I was talking about earlier, the NOBRO Facebook page. You can click on that and like it on Facebook. This one right here, this is actually our lead investigator, Troy Hudson. That's his Bigfoot blog site. He does weekend expeditions in southeast Oklahoma around the Honubby area. So if you were interested in actually going on an expedition weekend, you would want to go to his blog site and email him. If you are interested in that, you can chat with me about that afterwards.
What was his last name?
Hudson, Hudson. Yep. And he's who runs the Facebook page. Okay, and then finally down here, this last picture down here, this is our NOBRO Bigfoot sightings database. So you just click on the picture, and there's going to be this big chart that comes up. It might look confusing, but it's really not confusing. It might seem overwhelming at first. So I'm going to click that. Okay, there we go. All right, and this goes to our database that we've been cataloging. I was just going to show you 3 sightings that I thought were kind of neat, and they actually have eyewitness drawings that go with them. I'm not going to show you every one, but if you look at the year column, it goes in the order of year. So that's how I set it up. So it's all scattered. The first one's in another state. We do take sightings from other states too. We try to keep it in Oklahoma though. The second one is in the Northeast District, and it was in 1973. So it's all scattered around, but I lined it up by year, so you can just kind of scroll through there. The first one I'm going to show you is in 1975. Right here it says, okay, right here. This one right here, number 28, Creek Native American Bigfoot. So all you do, if you really want to read it, is you get on that little, I don't know what you would call that right there. See where the finger is? Just click on that, and it's going to show you, it's going to bring up that whole case file. Okay, and then you can actually go through there and read it. So, Creek Native American Bigfoot description and childhood sighting, 1975. It was a Class A nighttime sighting. So he actually saw the creature, but it was at night. There's a Class A daytime sighting where you see it in the daylight. You actually are going to get more detail from that. And then there's a Class A nighttime sighting. So he saw it at night. He was a child. His testimony is actually, there's actually two parts to this. He gives like a big background of the Creek Indians and what they call their Bigfoot. And then he actually gives his sighting from his childhood. So what I'm going to do is you can read that later on your own. I'm going to scroll down here to the pictures here. Okay, so this happened in the Northeast District. Okay, and where's my finger now? Oh. Evans, do you know why this isn't working?
No.
Got stuck.
Might try using the mouse.
Yeah, I'm doing that too. All right, well, we're frozen there for a second. So it happened in the Northeast District. It actually happened in Osage County. I was going to show you that. And then I was going to show you his, if I get it unfrozen here. Oh, my goodness. I was going to show you a drawing that he made of the Creek Bigfoot. I hope I'm pronouncing this right. This is what he told me. They called it Tall Man, and in their language they called it Isti Japka. And I'm trying to, if I can just unfreeze this. Do it. So, yeah, his childhood sighting, he was in Osage County with his grandfather, and they were actually out at night just sitting on a car hood. They were sitting there and they were counting stars, looking at the stars, and all of a sudden they saw a creature kind of step out of the wood line, and there was actually a street light. They're out in the country though, but there was a light, and it kind of stepped into the light, and they saw it for a few moments. He was, I think, around 8 years old or something, and anyway, that's his sighting. I really wanted to show you the picture that he drew. If we can get this going.
You want to stand up? He's got a
Okay, question real quick.
Have you seen a Bigfoot, and has he seen you, and what did he do?
Those are great questions. I have never seen a Bigfoot. When I was a teenager, I would channel surf like any teenager would, and every time I'd go by the Discovery Channel, if I saw any kind of show, documentary about Bigfoot, there it is. I don't know what happened. But anyway, to answer your question, I was fascinated every time I saw a show about Bigfoot, and I just got hooked on it when I was a kid, and then it just kind of, as I grew up, I went to the conference, the Honabi Bigfoot conference, and it just all those childhood feelings came back, and I'm just into it. So I'm someone who's never seen one. I go out and try to see them, but haven't seen one yet. I've had a couple of experiences. Me and Evans one time back in the spring, we heard a wood knock. We did a wood knock, and then we were walking out of Stinchcombe Wildlife Refuge, and about, I don't know, 10-15 minutes later after we did ours, we were walking out of the park. We heard a single wood knock. And we know for a fact we were the only people in that park that day, because nobody else was parked in the parking lot except for us. So nobody else was there. So there's not very many animals that just do a single wood knock that can use their hands and hit a tree. I mean, it could have been a woodpecker, but I don't think woodpeckers usually do a single wood knock like that. So anyway, that was interesting. Okay, so this is Isti Japka, and he actually has a tail. In his description, he says that it has a whip-like tail, and every time that he would crack it, it would sound like thunder. And if you were out in the woods and you heard the tail whip, it would actually cause you to get lost. So I thought that was just a really neat description. If you want to read more about it, you have to go to the website. I want to show you a couple more sightings, and I want to go back to Evans. Okay, so that was in 1975, Osage County. Now I want to go to, let's see here. There it is. Okay, this one right here, number 42. Man sees Bigfoot along Highway 10. So I'm going to click right there, and it pulls up the file. And this was in 2010. This was a Class A daytime sighting. So he actually saw it in the daylight, Adair County along Highway 10. And so I'm just going to click on the pictures here. So this was in northeast Oklahoma. This happened in Adair County. And he actually gave me the exact spot where he saw it. So sometimes eyewitnesses will do that. They'll give me the exact spot. Some don't want to give the exact spot for whatever reason. It might have happened on their private property and they don't want people snooping around there, so they don't give me the exact spot. But there's different reasons for that. But he actually gave me the spot, so I always think that's really neat. Okay, this is an actual drawing that he gave me. His sighting, he was just driving along Highway 10, and he saw it standing next to a fence, and he said the hand was on the post, like you see in the drawing, and it was just way, way taller than the fence was, and he said the hair looked like Spanish moss was his description. And so he drew that for me, and that's his eyewitness drawing. He saw it from the back, never saw it from the front. So anyway, if you want to read that encounter, you'll have to go to the website. I just wanted to show you the eyewitness drawing. Then I've got one more I'll show you. This was from a woman in southwest Oklahoma. She's actually in some kind of Bigfoot group, and they were actually out looking for one. She had never seen one before. Let's see here. Yeah, here it is. Hold on. My cheat sheet here. Figure out which one it was. Okay. Number 20. Anybody see number 29 along here? Oh, okay. It's in 2018. So this is a more recent one.
That was last year.
Yeah, that was last year, wasn't it? Okay, there it is. Woman sees Bigfoot sitting in tree. So this eyewitness, like I said, she was in a Bigfoot group, and she did not want to tell me the exact location. I guess her group goes there quite often, and they don't want to give up their spot. They don't want to, give out that information. Class A nighttime sighting. She wouldn't even tell me what county it happened in, but we do know that it was in the Southwest District, and somewhere in Southwest Oklahoma. And I really think this is cool. She drew this. This is her eyewitness drawing. It's not a great drawing, but she was trying to make the point that it was sitting just like that in that position in the tree. And so I just think that's valuable information to have the drawing of an eyewitness. And it was sitting there. I did a recreation. Sometimes I do these little recreations. Now this isn't exactly what she saw, but I just did a recreation of my own, make it a little bit more like a Bigfoot sitting in the tree, like kind of what she drew. So anyway, on the website, I do some recreation photos. They're not always going to be 100% accurate to what the eyewitness said, but to give us an idea. Okay? So that concludes my presentation. I'm going to hand it back over to Evans. If you have any questions about the website or anything like that, you can come speak to me after the presentation today. You got one quick question?
Did anyone take a picture of one?
No, I don't have anybody not yet. I'm still waiting on that. No, I'm just trying to get eyewitness drawings and eyewitness testimony. Okay, real quick. What's that? I certainly do. I believe in the possibility of Bigfoot. I do. That's why I volunteer and go out with Evans several times a year, because I definitely think there's a possibility for it. So anyway, Evans.
In fact, we do have a friend, that one in the tree reminded me that when we're out looking, we don't just look like down in the brush or down the riverbank, or a lot of times along the rivers there are these tall, huge cottonwoods and other trees. And some of our other researchers have reminded us, oh yeah, don't forget to look up. One of our, well, Mr. Kurt Stanley that founded the North Canadian River Project, he was down at a bridge on the North Canadian and heard a cough and kind of a whoop. And he started looking around in the trees and just, he couldn't see it. He started taking pictures. And I do have over here his pictures that he took of it kind of in the shadows there in the tree. He felt like it was a young one. It looks like a young one peeking out at him. So yeah, that's always a possibility. You got to have some of the guys like to talk about having their head on a swivel in the daytime as well as the night. Okay. So this is probably the most famous picture of a Bigfoot or a Sasquatch. You know, Bigfoot sounds kind of cartoony, but you know, a lot of folks like to call them Sasquatch, which is a North American tribal name for them. And some people, well, I know the Texas group, there's a real strong research group in East Texas. They call them wood apes. Wood apes because they tend to find them in the forests there. Kurt has called these, the ones that we see in here around here, river apes. They primarily hang around the rivers because that's where, of course, habitat, you know, water, cover, particularly in western Oklahoma, down in the ravines and along creeks and rivers is pretty much where the habitat's going to be. It's where the food and water and cover is going to be. So he's kind of nicknamed them river apes. Question back here?
Yeah, I was wondering if anyone ever saw one near Choctaw?
I believe there are some sighting reports from Choctaw. When Finding Bigfoot was here in 2014, I think there was a young man from Choctaw that gave an eyewitness testimony during the town hall public meeting of that show. Stood up and told his story. I believe that was from over here in this area. Yes, ma'am?
What do they
Well, I guess we call them an omnivore. They eat just whatever they can find. Like many of the critters here, they eat fruits, native fruits, and I'm sure they're also hunters. We find weird-looking deer carcasses that have been killed, that sort of thing. So they're meat eaters, whatever they can find to eat.
Have they ever eaten a human?
I haven't ever heard of that, fortunately. There are some old stories of some of these and some of the tribal characters being linked to what we call cannibalism, that sort of thing, but no modern day stories of that, I don't think.
Probably if you see like half-eaten deer, it's probably like a coyote.
Right, yeah, there are lots of other predators out there too, they sure are. So this is nicknamed Patty from the Patterson-Gimlin film that was shot in 1967 in Bluff Creek, California in the Sierra Nevada mountains. This probably the most famous frame where she is turned and looking at the photographer. This was taken on old 8mm film, and so that particular frame has been enhanced by a videographer. His name's M.K. Davis. He does a lot of work on that film, trying to bring out the qualities of that creature. And there's just, you go on the internet and there's thousands of arguments about whether or not this is real, whether it was a person in costume, there's all those arguments about that. But the reason I used it here is to say, what is a Bigfoot? What are these things? And that also is just tremendous debate about what these things are.
I think it's half bear, half monkey.
Okay. Whether it is a form of primate, like a North American primate, but there just seems to be something different about these creatures. Of course, like I said, a lot of the native tribes believe that these are an ancient form of people. They consider them, some of them, their names for are the ancient ones, the ones who came before, the old ones. So they consider them an ancient tribe. So, I mean, the argument's still out. Since we don't have one to study, and, lots of argument about why are they so elusive, something different. I mean, most wildlife don't care to be around humans. but these things seem to be especially able to elude capture, elude photography, trail cameras, that sort of thing. So just a lot of argument about that. We just don't know. It ranges from all the way from one end of the spectrum of argument that they're an alien type creature that has all kinds of abilities, special abilities to appear and disappear and that sort of thing, and goes all the way to the North American ape argument, or even to ancient hominid, humanoid.
Or possibly they're so intelligent, they understand what would happen if they actually
Right.
met up with humans, so they would,
Yes.
no, we'll
They-
try to hide things.
They do seem to, for some reason, they do seem to especially want to avoid humans.
And when you talk about studying, you know, it's like, would we do that to a human? Would we go out in the woods, grab them, and take them
Right.
out to study them?
Right. Of course, a lot of the tribes have stories of them of trading with these creatures or exchanging things with these creatures. These creatures actually visiting tribal camps, that sort of thing. And there are stories of, just like with human personalities, there's stories of ones that are mean, stories of ones that are nice and gentle. It just runs an entire spectrum. So, like I said, the argument's still out. We just don't know. Some people believe they're a spiritual type creature. Some of the tribes believe that they're a spiritual type creature and have very strong medicine, special abilities, capabilities. Like Ryan mentioned, the ability to make you forget. Some people call it being zapped with infrasound. That they use infrasound for hunting, for confusing other predators. And so you lose track of time, you get disoriented, that sort of thing. So, gosh, I don't know. I'm not an expert. I mean, I'm not here to tell you what these things are. We just don't know yet until we have one to study. Quick question.
Has anyone ever had a attempt to capture one?
I don't know. I know there are parties that go out, actually hunting these things. Don't know that they've been successful yet.
And another one is that the space center, it could be that the UFOs.
Yeah, there are stories of them even being connected with eyewitness reports of them being connected with UFOs. So, I mean, it just runs the whole spectrum. Okay, this is an artist's drawing of, I guess what you call the average reported appearance of a Sasquatch. You can see there the short neck, or you appear to have broad shoulders, no neck, long hair, long arms, and of course the huge feet, hairy all over, that sort of thing. So big, wide body. Of course, a lot of them that are reported as very tall, 7 to 9 feet. But there are reports of there's got to be younger ones too. So there's also reports of young ones. But that's just kind of an average. And this was a trail camera photo taken back in 2001 by Randy Yepaw from Southwest Oklahoma. I don't know how well you can see, but you see the flash. That's the old style trail camera with the bright white flash. You can see it reflecting in the left eye right here, and then you see the other eye. You can see the eye here. You can see a little glint there, and then you see lips and parts of the nose here. Can you see that at all? Does that show up at all?
Yeah.
Okay.
It kind of.
Yeah, so that was a trail camera photo. Probably back then when trail cameras were fairly new, and these creatures didn't know exactly what those were. Yeah, the lips stand out really well here. You can imagine them. You might fool them once, but you don't fool them twice on that sort of thing. So this is just a map of, and this is not up to date. This is fairly old map, but it just shows you sighting reports from Oklahoma. And so what you can just kind of generally pick out is that there's lots of reports in the eastern forests of Oklahoma. And then what's also surprising is this county here, 68 reports, 51. This is, of course, right along North and South Canadian Riverway here, down here where the Washita River flows down to the red. So just interesting to see kind of where some of the hot spots are, and that's kind of why we concentrate in this central area. Like I said, our efforts are along the North Canadian River, and you know, it's a slow, meandering river, lots of sandbars, which is a great place to look for footprints. The reason why Kurt founded the North Canadian Project was because he grew up in El Reno and heard about stories of these things all of his life, the Chicken Man story, that sort of thing, and began to kind of catalog these and search for them up and down the river there. This is some of our working on a field investigation a year ago. And that's the old abandoned bridge on Highway 81. Some of the equipment that we use. We also participate at the Honah State Bigfoot Conference down in southeast Oklahoma, down in the Kiamichi Mountains. And we set up a base camp there and participate in that conference. It's a great place. It's Honah, Oklahoma. It's Choctaw country.
Okay.
And it's kind of down there near north of Antlers, in that area, right along Honah Creek and the Little River. And it's a great place to exchange information with other researchers from around the state, around the country. They bring in national speakers that, like Dr. Jeff Meldrum, some of those you've seen on some of these Bigfoot documentaries. This year they'll have Ron Moorhead, who recorded the Sierra Sounds back in the 1970s in the Sierra Nevada mountains. So things like, researchers like that, Lyle Blackburn. Like I said, what Ryan was telling us about, we take sighting reports, that sort of thing. Kurt is on the left here, Kurt Stanley, our organizer, and he had received a report from a gentleman in near El Reno that had some caves on his property and had been hearing screams from down around those caves, and he didn't want to go back there and see what it was. So anyway, we went out there and climbed down in there to see what was going on. This is one of the entrances of the caves, and couldn't really tell, didn't really find any definitive tracks of anything around there, but it was real interesting and spooky.
Maybe he was just hearing.
That's true, might have just been hearing things, that's right. But, it could have been bobcat or mountain lion or anything like that, fox or coyotes down there screaming. Although, he was a native gentleman, so he knew the natural, regular, ordinary sounds, and he said these were different. So, but we're going to go back different times of the year and check that out. So what we're looking for is evidence in the field. We're looking for things that stand out, that appear different, that would be evidence of other than just the normal, ordinary wildlife walking around. So we're looking for things like footprints, and of course along the river, in the mud and the sandbars. It's a great place to look for footprints. This was a footprint, and it's terrible. I didn't put anything there for scale. Just found it as we were leaving on a road in Caddo County. Yeah, actually that one was about as long as that one on the table there, about that long. It was just pressed down on the side of the road there. Some really hard soil there, but just interesting the way it stood out there. You can tell something very heavy stepped right there and scrunched that down. I kind of got my boot track here next to it as a size 10 boot. So this is the size 10 boot here at the bottom to kind of get some scale. You can see my boot track, but you can see how hard pressed the soil is here and how light pressed my boot is. So whatever stepped there was pretty heavy. And that was way back on a county road in Caddo County, so interesting. Here's a little better footprint in the mud. So I think I've got, notice the big wide toes, wide body of the print. This is that same cast over here. We decided to cast a human footprint so we could kind of compare it to other prints that we find. That's about a size 10 foot. And this was, if you look at the human print there on your right, and this unidentified print on the left, you notice some differences. The human print is very long and thin with the arch, the ball of the toe, big toe. But here you see, well, you see it's just nice and wide and flat. Big, huge toes in here. You don't see much of an arch, but you do see this ridge here in the middle. And we'll talk a little bit, and that's a very deep print in the mud there. Dr. Meldrum from Idaho State University, he specializes in anatomy, physiology, and particularly foot morphology, which is the study of the structure of feet. And he specializes in primates and humans. This is his theory as to why the Sasquatch track is flat with that little ridge in the middle. Their foot is built differently because of their weight. They have what he calls a mid-tarsal flexion bone here, so the foot kind of folds up, so they can carry that weight and push off and balance. So that's why it makes that little hump in the middle of the footprint, where we leave that nice long arch shape there. Mid-tarsal flexion, or some people call it mid-tarsal ridge or mid-tarsal break. Tarsal bone. This was one taken in the mud out of Stinchcomb on a sandbar there. It's about a 10-inch print. You can see the wide flat with the toes splayed out. You see that hump in the middle, ridge in the middle. You don't see boot tracks. It was somebody wearing boots. And this was taken, I actually took this picture President's Day of this year. It was 26 degrees. You can see it's almost icy around the edge here. But you should see boot treads. If that's somebody's boot, you should see treads there somewhere. So just interesting things like that. That's what we're looking for. This was another print on a sandbar, dry sandbar. It's a lot more thin and narrow. It's over a foot long. So that's a pretty large, it's either a very large human print, or it's really thin though, but it does have that kind of ridge in the middle. So I don't know, a lot of these things, we're just kind of looking for things like that, things that look interesting. This print was much longer and much deeper. And I'll show you where it was here in just a second, but you can see how deep the print is. The toes up here, but it actually extends down to about here. So at least 13, 14-inch print. That's a large human, and in the middle of winter, that's unusual. There you see how, you see how deep the toes dig there. And we've got, what, about a 12-inch by almost 6-inch wide, 5-inch wide foot. Do you see anything else in this picture that stands out to you besides how deep it is? Yes, it is big. Do you see some little lines here?
Yeah.
Okay, if you look at your fingertips, you see these whorls of skin. Those are called dermal ridges, and those fingerprints are unique to you. Only you have that pattern. You also have patterns of skin on the bottom of your feet like that, and your toes. So one of the things we look for in footprints is these what we call dermal ridges, the little lines on your fingerprint or your footprint where the skin is.
Must mean it's not wearing shoes.
Definitely not wearing shoes, that's right. And that's another good clue that it's an actual footprint and not a boot print or something like that. So we look for dermal ridges like that. That, again, was taken in the wintertime. Somebody with that large of a foot that's out there running around in the middle of winter, that's the things that make you stop and go, who made this print? This is where that came from. This was February of this year. Like I said, President's Day. I was out at Stinchcomb Refuge in northwest Oklahoma City. And if you're familiar with here, you know that they have this dirt road that runs the entire circumference of the refuge, boundary road, service road, that sort of thing. And of course, the gates on either end are locked. Only the Parks Department, Police Department, that sort of thing makes a trip down through there every once in a while. But over here in the ditch were these footprints going down the ditch. They came out of the woods where I'm standing. There was no trail. I was hiking back to the parking lot. It was I was a little over a mile from the parking lot here. The footprints came out of the woods. They went about 20 yards, and where my hiking stick is here, it just turns and goes back in the woods. No trail, just no opening really. But whatever it was, came out, walked down the ditch. Not out here in the road, you would find animal tracks, find boot tracks from other people. But why this, whatever it was, you see the toes really go here. Why it decided to walk down the ditch instead of walking on the road? Interesting.
But you said it was in the cold, right?
Yes, and this was like that morning when I started, it was like 24 degrees.
Mine's a little warmer
Right.
than
So yeah. So evidently, whenever it happened, it had been rainy and muddy. But those tracks were, 2, almost 3 inches deep. And if you notice something else weird about that line of footprints, straight. Yeah, it's like somebody's walking a tightrope. Humans don't walk like that. When we walk, we walk like this, with our feet going like this. This was more like tightrope walking. So that's something else that caught my eye there. I thought, well, that's strange. That's not. It doesn't look like somebody that's walked down the. You can follow somebody that's been walking down the road by their boot tracks, and their boot tracks are here. This was one right after the other, and a pretty large stride in between. So, just interesting stuff like that. This was one found in May on a mud bank over near El Reno. Yeah, look how deep that is. I'm standing there next to it in a size 10 boot. I can barely press the soil down, but you see how deep that print is. It's a small print though. Yeah, it's only about 9 inches.
I think it was done by an animal that was walking on 2 feet.
Okay, good. You can definitely see a foot there in print. Here's a close-up. You see the soil down at the bottom is still wet. So whatever that was mighty heavy to make a deep impression like that. Some casts of footprints from a collection.
Made out of footprints.
Mm-hmm. It does look like a cake, doesn't it? In fact, we've got a couple over here that you're welcome to look at. It's made, they cast the footprint in plaster to copy the print, and then it hardens, and that way you can get a good look at it. This is Jim Mordecai, and he's part of the Honaby Creek staff, or Honaby conference staff. When we were there in October, a hunter came in and said he was down in Honaby Creek and found some footprints. He wanted us to come look at it. Jim and Troy went down there and looked at those and cast them. And the cast on the left there is about 18 inches long. This was the actual, took a picture of the actual place in the mud there on the creek of that print.
There's a red log in there.
Yep, I think it's just a leaf. But you can see how wide, flat the foot is, the large toes. Yeah. Here was one up further at the bank in the dry area, the soil. Look, if you notice, that's a 9-inch hunting knife. That knife is 9 inches long. Do you see how the toes go all of a sudden like this?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
weird.
Jim said it looked like that the creature had turned and was going up the bank. So that's why,
Or
you know,
it has a walking problem.
yeah, or it has, well, that's true. But just fascinating. Some other evidence that we look for, some people call these stick structures. This was up near Boiling Springs State Park, near Woodward, where the North Canadian River starts. It could be a big campfire, couldn't it? Sure could. But something had hollowed out, that carried all those in, stacked them up, and then had hollowed out that area and lined it with leaves. Nice soft bed in there. You know, I was looking around there to see if I could find some long hair or something like that. But, you know, just find interesting looking things like that. Did a Bigfoot build that? I don't know. It wasn't there when it was built. There's some mighty big logs in there that it would have taken 2, 3, 4 people to carry those logs. The logs were not sawn. There's no saw marks. Whatever they were was broken off, picked up, carried. So, you know, could it have been a scout troop doing survival stuff? Sure. I just don't know. But It was very interesting to look at.
I'm just curious as to whether, since you have it on your website and all that,
Uh-huh.
have they done statistics like with the state of Oklahoma to see where the sighting, where more of the sightings are and what season?
Yeah, you could look at the sighting reports, the database there, the map, and it'll show you concentrations of sightings.
Oh,
And then if you look at that list of sightings that Ryan was showing you, or the list on the BFRO, Bigfoot Research Organization, it'll tell you the month of the and the year that it was reported.
But I mean,
So
you haven't
kinda-
put those statistics.
Yeah, no,
together,
I haven't.
kind of. There's
Maybe-
a season where they drop them.
Maybe
Traffic
BFRO
and
has, I don't know, yeah. This was down near Honolulu in the Three Rivers Wildlife Management area, back along some logging roads. We found where this little 4-inch oak tree had just been, not just snapped over, it had been twisted and snapped over, all by itself there, just in the middle of the woods. Nothing around it, no other trees around it damaged. You know, we try to explain it. How did it happen naturally? Was it a tornado? Was it a windstorm? Was it a snowstorm? I'm sorry? Was it lightning? You should be able to find some evidence if it's burnt or charred, that it was lightning or fire. But no, there's this one little tree all by itself there. You can see how it wasn't just bent over, it was twisted. You can imagine the size of hands and strength it would take, because it was about right here, to bend that thing over and twist it to make it pop like that. So, just interesting. Why they do, if that is attributable to a Bigfoot, why they do it, I don't know. Some kind of, that's the things we're trying to figure out. Some kind of communication for something. Other things they call stick formations, tree snaps, and you can tell me that one was just snapped off.
Doing yoga.
Yeah. X formations. There was an entrance to a game trail here. Why that X was there and that was snapped over. And there are people that study these and say that a lot of times they're pointing in certain directions toward water, toward food. Does the X mean keep out? Is it a tribal boundary marker saying this is our territory? Just don't know. It could be that there's something there that they want the other Bigfoots to notice. We just don't know what it means. This was in Stinchcombe Refuge this past May by a game trail there. You can see that this is a fairly large tree, and it's bent over. Now, what I should have done was taken a picture of where it ends up here. But it's a green tree. It still has green leaves on it and everything. But what had happened was the tip top of the tree, something had taken greenbrier vines. You know, greenbrier, if you've seen greenbrier, has the thorns on it and everything. They had literally wrapped the greenbrier vines around and pinned that top of that tree to the ground. And it's just amazing. But it literally been wrapped like you would wrap it with twine or baling wire or something like that, and wrap the top of that tree to hold it to the ground. Why that bow over that trail? I don't know. But for something to be able to be tall enough and strong enough to bend that tree over and wrap the top, I don't know. That's the kind of weird stuff that we find and we're looking for. This was, Kurt had received a call about damage to the river gauging station near El Reno, out on the river, and something had, now this was in July when we were looking at it. It was originally reported in, I think, December of that year. We had been down to look at it a couple times. We went to show some of our team what happened was, but this is a microwave pole sending data on the river back to the Water Resources Board. It tells them the height of the river and the flow and all that sort of data. It's a river gauging station. It's electrified. There's an electric connection to it. It also has a tall steel pole mast, galvanized steel pole mast with a microwave unit on top, antenna on top. Something had bent that over to the ground, galvanized pipe that thick, and had ripped the front of the box off, literally ripped the hinges off, the whole front of the box off, ripped out wires, that sort of thing. Could have been human vandalism. It happened, they could tell exactly when the box stopped working. It was like 3:10 a.m. on a December morning. So who's out there at 3:10 in the morning? Could have been vandalism, I guess, but whoever it was mighty strong to rip the front of that box off. And they took a real chance because the box was electrified of shocking themselves, killing themselves, and they would have to have climbed to the top of the box, or I don't know. But anyway, to do that kind of damage, it's like pretty strong. Kurt had talked to he'd seen some of the staff down there installing the new one behind it. Stopped and talked to them. They said there had been prints found around that box. And one of the staff off the record said, yeah, we know about these things down here. They had seen one before. So it's just interesting, the things you find whenever you start looking around out there. This is a steel T-post. This was over in southwest Oklahoma. You know what a 7-foot steel T-post? You can imagine the strength it would take to bend one of those into a horseshoe. Just unusual stuff like that is what we're looking for to try to figure out how that was done.
That's a big horseshoe.
Yeah, that is a big horseshoe. This is that clear image I was talking about. We were actually standing on the Highway 81, the old bridge, and shooting down with the FLIR, looking along the riverbank. Here's the top of the riverbank up here, and this something was sitting in the brush there on the edge of the river, and was watching us as we were watching it. But it's kind of interesting. You see the wide shoulders. Of course, the brush shows up cooler, but you see it looks like a conical shaped head, face there. You can see kind of a nose and eye spots, wide shoulders. Looks like maybe hands or something here, but that was very interesting. And while we were watching this, there was something else up on top of the riverbank and some woods there walking back and forth. I don't know if it was waiting for this one to move, but this one would kind of move back and forth, kind of rock side to side. It would kind of peak up and then back down. And we stood there and watched it for, I don't know, 20 minutes, and then walked down to the other end of the bridge, and then we came back and it was gone. So, just very interesting. You can tell whatever's sitting there in the brush is fairly large and is watching us. Let's see. One of the things I wanted to show you was one of the best pieces of evidence that we have is actually audio, because it's so hard to see these things, to get a glimpse of them. The one that I saw south of Honubby in Tupelo Mountain with my brother, it just crossed the trail that quick. Before we even had a chance to, it just peeked at us, leaned its head out, looked at us, and then stepped across that quick, and it was gone. Just big, tall, black. But it seems like in this area, they don't make a lot of noise. They don't give themselves away, probably because there's not as much cover. But down around in the southeast part, eastern part of the state, where there's lots more cover, forest area, that sort of thing, they tend to be more vocal. Although the Concho is not far from the river there where we're at, and the staff at the casino, in the middle of the night, they do hear vocalizations that they think are coming from these creatures down on the river. A scream or a whoop or a howl every once in a while, but not a lot. The reason because you can actually study audio evidence. These, like the Ohio Howl is probably more famous, but scientists can actually put this, or audiologists can actually put these on a spectrograph and see the frequency of the sound that's being made there, and you can compare that to other animals. Texas A&M University has Kingsville has a database of vocalizations of all known North American wildlife. When they put some of these recordings in their database, it comes back to an unknown creature. They don't know what made the sound. But I wanted to play two audio clips for you. And you can look at the spectrogram. Now in these, you'll hear dogs barking, and you can see where their spectrograph lies. Where it sits on the spectrograph, you can see the frequency of the dogs barking, people talking, and then the other vocalizations, weird sounds that are being made. And boy, I hope this works. Okay, here's the Ohio Howl. Yep. Dog's upset about something. You actually heard an owl here. Interesting. Does that sound like any kind of native wildlife anybody's ever heard of? You definitely heard the dogs barking. This was some other interesting vocalizations captured in Michigan in 2012. And this makes a lot of different sounds here. Two different. Okay, sorry about that. This is the Michigan. Could that be an owl? I don't know, but then it starts up again and it sure doesn't sound like an owl. Hear how loud and strong that is? It just kind of trails off. That's a weird sound. How many seconds was that? So you hear the higher coyotes? That is a weird sound. How many seconds weird noises. Couple of wood knocks. Heard those noises in the woods at night. That'd be kind of scary. How many different kinds of noises has this thing made? Yeah. Notice how low it's very consistently low along the spectrograph there. Wood knocks. Yeah. So yeah, if you heard those noises while you're out in the woods at night, that would definitely be concerning. But so that's the kind of evidence that we're looking for, things like that. And then try to get the audio file to play on this other one. But here's one that was actually recorded in Oklahoma, down near Honubby. And this is the type of screams that my brother and I heard down there. The ones in a lot of these descriptions of Bigfoot from different areas of the country, different regions of the country, there's different descriptions. Some are tall, thin, skinny, scraggly looking. Some are the big, wide, tall, huge ones. Does that have to do with the environment that they're in, the habitat, the climate? That's just theories that we're coming up with and things that we're guessing. But one of the things that I've noticed, the ones in the southeastern part of the state, they don't necessarily, well, they will sometimes howl, but they don't do a lot of the whoops and things like that. They do a lot of rock clacking, picking up rocks and smashing them together. We've heard that down there before when we got too close to an area. Lots of chattering, but the thing that really got our attention was this was recorded. I don't know who recorded it, but this is what we heard and got our attention.
It just sounds like a book that has a sweat cloud.
The evening that we had our sighting, we'd stayed in one area, probably overstayed our welcome, stayed too long. They were throwing rocks at us, and then there was one down in the creek bottom, because the way this ridge was running, there was creeks on either side. There was, after it was really good and dark, and we had been there a while, we heard one scream like that. I heard something down that creek bottom scream like that, and then it was coming up the hill. You could hear it coming through the woods, and then it screamed much louder than that. And that's when we decided it might be a good time to leave. So that got our attention. They just definitely wanted us out of their area. So anyway, that is our presentation, and we would love for you to stay around if you got questions, if you'd like to tell us your encounter story, if you'd like to look at some of the things we have here, see some of the equipment, ask us questions. We'd be happy to stay. So thank you for coming.